it's sunny, but it's actually raining in some parts. It's a little weird. And with that in mind, what's going on today? Seems like, I guess in some places like the US, they're going to open up things like beyond visual line of sight more easily for drones, and that's making some people, I guess, uneasy. This one says, drones permitted to fly out of sight to monitor wildlife. For years, there's been a cardinal rule for flying civilian drones. Keep them within your line of sight, not just because it's a good idea, it's also the law. But some drones have recently gotten permission to soar out of their pilot's sight. They can now inspect high voltage power lines across the forested Great Dismal Swamp in Virginia. They're tracking endangered sea turtles off Florida's coast and monitoring seaports in the Netherlands and railroads from New Jersey to rural West. Aviation authorities in the US and elsewhere are preparing to relax some of the safeguards they imposed to regulate a boom in off-the-shelf consumer drones over the past decade. Businesses want simpler rules that could open your neighborhood skies to new commercial applications of these low-flying machines, although privacy advocates and some airplane and balloon pilots remain wary. Although my thought was, this is turning out exactly how you'd expect it to be. You fear-monger this stuff because people are flying it for fun. Now all of a sudden, when, I don't know, businesses and stuff want to use it in a certain way, it's fine. It says here, that expectation of small drones with little human oversight delivering packages, assessing home insurance claims, or buzzing around on nighttime security patrols has driven the FAA's work this year to craft new safety guidelines meant to further integrate drones into the national airspace. The FAA said it is still reviewing how it will roll out routine operations, enabling some drones to fly beyond visual line of sight, although it has signaled that the permissions will be reserved for commercial applications, not hobbyists. Surprise, surprise, huh? It says our ultimate goal is you shouldn't need a waiver for this process at all. It becomes accepted practice, said Adam Bryce, CEO of California drone maker Skydio, which is supplying its drones to Dominion, railroad company BNSF, and other customers with permission to fly beyond line of sight. The more autonomous the drones become, the more they can just be instantly available anywhere they could possibly be useful, Bryce said. That's kind of interesting too, just based on this, is a company like Skydio going all in with, I guess, commercial drone applications and supporting, I guess, only them as well. Makes you wonder. It says part of that involves deciding how much to trust that drones won't crash into people or other aircraft when their operators aren't looking. Other new rules will require drones to carry remote identification, like an electronic license plate, to track their whereabouts. And in the aftermath of Russia's war in Ukraine, where both sides have used small consumer drones to target attacks, the White House has been pushing a parallel effort to counter the potential malicious use of drones in the US. So of course the argument here for things like the ID and all that is for privacy reasons, and it says here, there is a greater chance that you'll have drones flying over your house or your backyard as these beyond visual line of sight drone operation increases, said Jeremy Scott, a senior counsel at the Electronic Privacy Information Center who sat on the FAA's advisory group working to craft new drone rules. It will be much harder to know who to complain to. Epic and other groups dissented from the advisory group's early recommendations and are calling for stronger privacy and transparency requirements, such as an app that could help people identify the drones above them and what data they are collecting. That one-sided, I guess, argument where, again, there's no distinction, where even if it's a kid flying like a drone around a tree in their own property, you want to be able to track them, anyone could have access to it. That's crazy. It says if you want to fly beyond visual line of sight, especially if you're a commercial, the public has a right to know what you're flying, what data you're collecting, said Andre Arida, Director of Consumer Privacy Engineering at the Electronic Frontier Foundation. It seems like such a low bar. The problem is, in my opinion, is classification. There is absolutely no difference for a lot of these places and countries. They consider everything commercial. Almost every drone is considered a huge manned aircraft, like this beyond visual line of sight. Technically, if you fly around a tree, you can't see it for like 1 second, like literally within your line of sight, it's illegal. That's ludicrous. Like there's no distinction between, like, say, a hobbyist or a commercial person in that aspect. Or same thing, a lot of commercial people, they use like what, off-the-shelf drones? Like there has to be that distinction, in my opinion. That should be the #1 priority. Not assuming every drone is carrying a passenger, has some kind of telephoto lens that can zoom in so, I guess, crystal clear. That's ridiculous. Again, for me, I look for consistency in life. If you say you want to be able to track anyone, what they're doing and so forth, then I'll demand the same thing. If you're driving a car, I should have the right to know exactly where you're driving. How do I know you're not a terrorist carrying bombs or something like that? Claim you're going to the grocery store? How do I know? Maybe you're feeding on a criminal or something. I don't know. I deserve the right to know, correct? I mean, ludicrous. But let's see where this goes. In my opinion, all this stuff about regulations and all that, it basically created a problem that didn't exist per se, that should have took more time. But I guess that's how it goes. Money talks, right? When someone's influencing it. And I thought this was kind of interesting. Those Intel drone light shows are actually really popular, and more places are using drones instead of things like fireworks. But how about this one? Apparently the division for Intel drone light shows has been sold, and apparently to Elon Musk's brother. This one says the Intel drone light shows business has been acquired by Nova Sky Stories. So here the person writes, why I want to bring art to the skies of every city and town in the world. By here, Kimbal Musk. Today I'm announcing Nova Sky Stories, a new company with over 9,000 light drones to bring art to the skies around the world. And then you can read a bit more, like in some articles, like this one says, Elon Musk's brother buys Intel's fireworks replacing drone biz. As Intel tries to enact an ambitious comeback plan, the semiconductor giant has been offloading some divisions that aren't key to its core chip-making business. The latest to get shunted off is the company's PR-friendly drone-powered light show business, and the buyer is Elon Musk's brother. So that's kind of interesting. It makes me wonder if Intel is doing that because they're losing ground to companies like AMD when it comes to processors and stuff. And just in terms of the regulations and stuff, it makes me think how short-sighted it is in a lot of places. Like here in Canada, they recommend, for example, and tell you, hey, don't fly your drone near other drones. Again, they're treating everything as if, for example, it's a huge manned aircraft. Imagine doing like a drone light show or something like that in your own backyard experimenting. Hey, that's terrible. It's so dangerous. Like, again, there needs to be clear distinction between what people are using and how. Just like how in a road you distinguish so many different types of, for example, pedestrians, types of vehicles. They're all different. Although with short-sightedness, I guess, in terms of things like regulations from the government, it makes me wonder if this was actually kind of related, possibly anyways. Apparently Apple is going to be releasing, I guess, a feature where they can pretty much block, I don't know, access to your phone and all that in terms of security reasons. This one says, Apple expands industry-leading commitment to protect users from highly targeted mercenary spyware. Apple is previewing a groundbreaking security capability that offers specialized additional protection to users who may be at risk of highly targeted cyber attacks from private companies developing state-sponsored mercenary spyware. So I guess it's called this, lockdown mode. Apple today detailed 2 initiatives to help protect users who may be personally targeted by some of the most sophisticated digital threats, such as those from private companies developing state-sponsored mercenary spyware. Lockdown mode, the first major capability of its kind coming this fall with iOS 16, iPadOS 16, and macOS Ventura, is an extreme optional protection for the very small number of users who face grave targeted threats to their digital security. So what exactly does this lockdown mode do? According to this, it says for messages, most messages attachment types other than images are blocked. Some features like link previews are disabled. For web browsing, certain complex web technologies like just-in-time JavaScript compilation are disabled. And there's a bunch of other stuff. For example, like even wired connections, it says, with a computer or accessory are blocked when iPhone is locked. Configuration profiles cannot be installed, and the device cannot enroll into mobile device management while lockdown mode is on. And they even say here, quote, there is now undeniable evidence from the research of the Citizen Lab and other organizations that the mercenary surveillance industry is facilitating the spread of authoritarian practices and massive human rights abuses worldwide. I wouldn't doubt if that's 100% true. And actually I was thinking, because recently there was an article that talked about how a hacker in China claims he has all this data from, I guess, the police sources where they're keeping track of their citizens, which I don't doubt. This one says, hacker claims to have stolen 1 billion records of Chinese citizens from police. A hacker has claimed to have procured a trove of personal information from the Shanghai police on 1 billion Chinese citizens, which tech experts say, if true, would be one of the biggest data breaches in history. The anonymous internet user identified as China Dan posted on Hacker Forum breach forums last week offering to sell more than 23 terabytes of data for 10 Bitcoin, equivalent to about $200,000. I guess for what he has, he's not asking for much per se, but maybe he just wants the data and stuff out there. And it says, in 2022, the Shanghai National Police database was leaked. This database contains many TB of data and information on billions of Chinese citizens. Databases contain information on 1 billion Chinese national residents and several billion records, including name, address, birthplace, national ID number, mobile number, all crime case details. And apparently from all the reports I've been reading, whenever someone tries to talk about this now, about this, I guess, data leak in China, they completely get banned instantly, for example. So I'm guessing that shows you it's true per se if they're doing that censorship stuff. But yeah, I guess crazy times where people have to protect all their data and stuff because you just never know, I suppose. Alright, see you guys later.